era. But
Yeah, well, you were talking about the creator earlier too. Did that win anything? Was it last year?
it was nominated, but it didn't win. It lost to -1 Godzilla.
Oh, -1. That's right. Did you see this one?
Yeah, I did, and I actually didn't. I liked the effects of the creator a lot more. I didn't think the -1 was all of that interesting.
Do you think it has to do with like how you're wanting to do sci-fis in that realm?
No, I just wasn't like super like they're like, oh my god, this is the best CG. I'm like, that was fine. But maybe because I watched it at home and didn't watch it on the big screen. Like I didn't.
Shame on you, Sean. Have you not been watching was it Nicole Kidman commercials? The best. Can you enjoy it on the screen like this? Or screens like this? God.
Are we supposed to have like a red frame on that? Is that what you said? How do we know it's rolling?
Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the Rat's Nest. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Sean.
We are here to talk to you guys about some film stuff today. It is Oscar season, so we kind of wanted to get into what that means for us, really, honestly, and I mean, and also kind of bridge to other stuff we enjoy. So Sean, what does Oscar season mean to you? Like, what do you, like, how many of these films are you chasing down to watch every single season? Like, what?
I mean, yeah, it used to mean a lot. Like,
Yeah.
Marty and I used to do, like the Lyric used to host like Oscar night. I think they still
No, they do. They did it last weekend too.
I used to go to all of those and like,
Yeah.
like totally into it. But for some reason, it's kind of like, I don't know, the joy of it has kind of faded off for me a little bit.
What do you think that is? Do you think it's the films? Is it just something that?
No, I think it's like the ceremony itself. Like a lot of the films I do really want to see.
Yeah.
And this year there's a lot of really good films. Like, I mean, I know you saw Dune.
Yeah,
Alien.
Alien, yeah.
I watched Flow the other night and was like blown away by that.
I still gotta watch it.
But like, I think just the overall like pageantry and like the celebrating celebrity thing just got old to me. You know, like Marty and I used to love the pregame of like all the wardrobe and like who's wearing who and all that kind of stuff. And now I'm just like, I feel like I have better things to do. like no shame to like the films that are being played, but
Well, you know, I mean, to kind of echo that too is, I mean, it gets to a point as someone who enjoys film as well, that you're constantly playing catch up, watching film, or catch up, watching movies. Like you're constantly chasing them down. Like for instance, like for every Oscar film that someone probably watches, I've probably watched like 25 films that they've probably never heard of to just kind of chase down like films that I'm behind on. I was born in 1986. There's what, 40 plus years of good movies that you could just be watching. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'll catch up with the Oscar season when I do. And I also get like feedback from friends who have watched a lot of films that I trust their opinion on. And they'll be like, oh, those are the three that you probably want to see.
Right.
I like the idea of like the films that kind of float to the top over the years instead of like chasing down new films to make your own judgment on whether it's good or not. I feel like the zeitgeist is kind of how I judge it. Like if there's a bunch of people that like think this is like a really good underground film, I'm like, ooh, I really want to watch that. You know, it's like there's some films like that.
yeah, I really feel like a lot of the movies that we like our aesthetic don't make it to the Oscars.
I think that might be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I do love a good big blockbuster.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was my favorite movie from last year. Like Dune is pretty close, right? Like Romulus, pretty good.
Well, it's like, it's fine when they're doing some sci-fi stuff for us nerds, but that only happens probably, I'd give it like every 10 years. Like I think the last time it really happened was Interstellar and like The Martian, literally like in 2014 or 2013 when that happened.
Yeah.
That's when we were all like, oh my God.
that hard science
Right.
or sci-fi era. But
Yeah, well, you were talking about the creator earlier too. Did that win anything? Was it last year?
it was
before?
it was nominated, but it didn't win. It lost to -1 Godzilla.
Oh, -1. That's right. Did you see this one?
Yeah, I did, and I actually didn't. I liked the effects of the creator a lot more. I didn't think the -1 was all that interesting.
Do you think it has to do with like how you're wanting to do sci-fis in that realm?
No, I just wasn't like super like they're like, oh my god, this is the best CG. I'm like, that was fine, but maybe because I watched it at home and didn't watch it on like the big screen. Like I just
Shame on you, Sean. Have you not been watching was it Nicole Kidman commercials? The best. Can you enjoy it on the screen like this? Or screens like this? God. Well, I mean, well, that's kind of the feedback that I have for it too. Is
Yeah.
there's films that I really love that I know will never be nominated, and
Yeah.
that kind of plays into the whole game of the nomination circle. And if you really want to track down the Oscars a little bit, there is some kind of pay to play going on. Studios are, I think, was it Andrea Rosenbaum or whoever it was? She was in Mandy. They had a film that came out like a couple years back. They got in trouble for trying to pay to get into the Oscars. And I'm like, isn't that what everybody does? Why were they tripping about that?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, they paid to get her in. I'm like, I think that's what you do. Like you literally pay the people to watch your movie.
I would assume that there's like some kind of entrance fee, right? To like,
Yeah. They're like talking about it being bribes. I think it was just like, they can literally just like throw a film under the bus. They don't want to be part of it by just being like, they bribed us. I'm like, that's what they do. Whatever. And like I saw the lyric newsletter, they talked about the original purpose of the Oscars was like two ladies that like walk around back in the day and like hand out like these golden awards or something, like the Netherlands or something. That's where it all started.
interesting. Yeah.
That could have been made up too, because the lyric do have lots of storytellers. But let's talk about something that did ring really well this year and was a record breaker. An indie film won Oscars from Sean Baker. Now I haven't seen it, Nora, but have you seen it?
No, I haven't. Also missed that when I was in theater, but I can't wait to watch it after seeing kind of like, I didn't even know what it was about, but like, I guess it's about sex work.
Yeah, for sure. Which is a Sean Baker, like.
Yeah. But I just liked the fact that they kind of shot it very like, he was just a slice of life kind of thing where he's like, we took all the cinematics out of it and just made it its own thing. It's like they can be free to be themselves on screen. I was like, okay, that's fine. I don't think I've seen, because Sean Baker has like two other big films, right?
Yeah. The two big ones that I remember for sure that I've seen is The Florida Project and Tangerine.
Oh, Tangerine.
Yeah, that's Tangerine. So I actually I just bought a copy of Florida Project because my partner hasn't seen it yet, and I'm like, if you've ever been poor, this movie nails it. Like, I think it's a really good representation of like being poor in an area that's literally right next to Disneyland. It's a good film.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But Tangerine is like
Tangerine.
Tangerine was shot on like an iPhone 5
by Lawrence Sher. He
Yeah.
had like Joker and like the
like you talk about like the new Joker.
The new Joker, yeah, with Joaquin, and he also shot like the Hangover movies. Which is like really funny.
I know.
But,
Cinematographer Sean here knows these cats in.
my favorites, yeah.
Well, I mean, those movies were great. And I think Tangerine, I'll pop on every once in a while because I think I like the story. Florida Project really rings home because of growing up in like a poor world, kind of like I did. I want to see Nora, and I've been like dying to see it. As soon as I saw it coming, I was like, oh, shoot, Sean Baker. Heck, I follow Sean Baker on Letterboxd. And now I bet you he's like, I got to get off this. People are probably just blowing him up now. But the big thing is what he won. I think he won 4 Oscars. And that hasn't been done since like Walt Disney in like the 40s or something.
I think he was the first one to win that many as one person.
As one person.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying like Walt Disney did that, but it was for different projects. This was not only for one person, but like for one project.
Yeah.
Like that's like it, and it's an indie film, like a one-man show, just like you were talking about with Flow. So like, with that being said, I think that's something that the Oscars is finally recognizing, and I think even the streaming services are doing it too, is that there is a need for indie film again. We might get a small renaissance after this. Like Sean Baker winning an Oscar, we might reboot like that early 90s indie cinema where Tarantino came from and Linklater came from, which would be great for cats like us because I would like to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's about my favorite part about the Oscars this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like watching Flow, that was cool. Like, because I watched it without even knowing it was nominated. And then after I watched it, found out that it was made in Blender, which, like, for those who don't know, it's like a free open source 3D software that now is basically just as good as like 3ds Max and Cine 4D and like Houdini and all these like high, like $4,000.
I'm sure someone will fight you on that, but
Yeah.
I think that Blender is the best for its money. Like,
Yeah. I mean, like for like you can do just about anything you need to in it with no cost up front. Like, of course, yeah, like Octane and Houdini are going to be like fucking fantastic.
Yeah, like water in your shit and simulating hair. Like, those are the details that
but like
nerds will make
get pretty darn close in Blender, if not like finding some workaround. And if it's not there, it's open source a bit or figuring it out, and a new tool appears, the next iteration, and then it solves that issue.
Well, with this whole thing though, is like not only is it with Blender, but it's like a one-man army that created this film. Tell more about like the history.
Well, I don't know. Like I started watching like a talk by one of the head animators, and I think the director, who was talking about the making of it basically. And he went to school for like 2D art, and like slowly got into 3D, and Blender was the reason he was able to, because it made it easy to do. So he started this project, and like over 8 years, he ended up making this movie. Like you watch the credits, there's not very many people in it because there's no dialogue, and it's all hand animated, beautiful. It's very painterly. It looks like a painting come to life. Not quite like What Dreams May Come, but a little better in my opinion than What Dreams May Come.
I mean, that movie is age. That has some age to it. I'll be honest. I watched it recently. Yeah. Well, that's really cool. It's all done in Blender. It took 8 years to make.
Yeah, and I saw somewhere that most of it was done on a laptop, which is cool, because like you see these like big name studios, Pixar, Disney, whatever, have like whole studio spaces with the most powerful computers and like rows and rows of animators, and it's like I think it was like, and I don't know the exact number, but it's like less than 10 people worked on this movie. That's in terms of the animators. There's other people doing sound effects and score and stuff, but the animators were a very, very small team. I fell in love with that. I was like, whoa, like blown away. Like 2 very indie films won Oscars this year over Disney and stuff like that.
I mean, that's a very clear shift in what's happening in Hollywood right now. Yeah. Up until, and it's whatever, the superhero movie is great. They did their thing. It's just like how the 90s had their big blockbuster action films. In the 80s, we were like, everybody wanted to be, dang it, the movie with Bruce Willis, Die Hard. I said Get Hard.
Get Shorty or like
Get Shorty. But like everything's like that. And right now we had this massive push from like 2008 to pushing it all the way to like 2022, which is a long time. Usually films have like or genres or big actors have about a 10-year run. And then we're now at post superhero films, and yeah, there are still going to be massive fans. They're going to be putting these films out. They're going to not be as popular, so they'll kind of drop off the radar, and something else is going to replace it. And I think it's a perfect time for indie film to make an appearance, with Sean Baker doing this and Flo doing that. And heck, some of these indie animations that were in the shorts that I saw too, that won as well. I'm like, it was like all stop animation stuff too that everybody's wanting. And you can even fudge that now in Blender. So like, I think that we're wanting more animation that isn't just CGI to death. We're going to start seeing indie films that people are going to be doing stuff like what you're talking about with the 3D printer, and like being able to print off and have physical things. Because what happens is, I've noticed every 10 years, 5 years, 7 years, is we peak out with something. Like we either peak out with indie film, and then the blockbusters come, and then it switches, and then we switch it up. But in those peaks, right in the middle, when they cross over, you start seeing like the practical effects come back for just a second.
Yeah. And that's like one of the reasons I really love like the A24 films, because they're a bigger production, but I feel like a lot of them do have that feel of older movies that did practical effects. Like High Life was a really beautiful, I thought, beautiful, weird sci-fi, but all the spaceship shots were still like actual models. Yeah, that's sick. And it's like this fun little indie film with Robert Pattinson in it. Well, speaking of, that's what really inspires me, is like there's still people out there doing stuff like that, and that's why I've gotten into it recently and like really want to pursue model making and prop making and stuff like that. So
yeah, indie sci-fi coming in hot like they did in the late 90s. I'm excited for it. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. And I mean, that's kind of our take on the Oscars. I don't really watch many of them. I usually wait for them to float to the top, and we'll see them again. But I watch a lot of other movies, from terrible to great, which you're allowed to do and kind of fill it out. Something that I really appreciate is that there is now like weird things coming in. Like, for instance, a couple years back, maybe just like a year ago, there's a game that came out that made everybody want to watch Starship Troopers again, which is like a weird late 90s, like 1997 film. There's like a video game that was similar to it. So everybody's like watching that. So for some reason, I watched
Half-Life or something.
it wasn't Half-Life.
We have like antlions that look very much like the bug.
Right? No, this was like a new game because I didn't recognize the name of it. I know Half-Life.
Yeah.
I know Half-Life. I've heard of Half-Life. But like there's some stuff like that coming in and like people wanting to see like, more of that like practical stuff anyways. But I watched like Wild Wild West last night, like which at the time,
Classic.
yeah, American Western classic. At the time, it just didn't ring well. I thought it was just like a bunk movie, but watching it again, it does a really good job of time stamping where we were in CGI, and because they had like basically robot trains and stuff. People like made out of everything was steam powered.
Gosh. Is that Kenneth Branagh in that as the
lead as a villain?
Yeah. Who?
I can't remember his name, but I had to look him up last night because I didn't recognize him until he like took off all his beard and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could pull up my letterbox right now. But yeah, like that and like Kevin Kline and Will Smith, it didn't necessarily work then, but watching it now, there's something about it that kind of works really well. Because they were both on a peak out because Kevin Kline was doing like, like, was it like A Fish Called Wanda and stuff like that. And Will Smith is coming in as being like this funny action star. And I think they were even coming off like Enemy of the State, which I think is an awesome film. I think that came out in 98, I'm guessing, because this was 99 that the Wild Wild West came out.
Yeah.
But anyways, going down the Will Smith hole, I guess there.
Don't want to be doing that.
Yeah, don't be doing that. I'll end up getting slapped. But also too is did you see that video of Will Smith like eating spaghetti? Like he actually did. No. He actually did a video of him eating spaghetti just because it got so popular. He did like last year or whatever. Whatever.
AI videos. That's hilarious.
Well, yeah. So Sean, tell me about a favorite indie film that you can think of right now that you really enjoy. We were talking about the creator and stuff like that. Is there any other sci-fis you can think of?
I don't know if the creator is considered.
Is he?
Yeah, I don't like. It's hard to know because they might have an indie feel, but it's still backed by like a studio. So off the top of my head, I don't
Right.
necessarily know.
Well, is there any films you're excited that might be coming out this year? We did talk about Tron earlier for a split second.
Tron, yeah,
I think that's coming out.
Didn't even know that was a thing. So
Right.
now excited about it.
Right.
Well, there's Mickey
Mickey 17.
Very excited.
I was going to bring that up because we were talking about Pattinson a second ago.
Yeah. One. I was confused. His name is it Bong Park O or Jun
Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah.
I do.
You got me there. I was like,
Yeah, there's a few directors from Korea that have very similar names.
Yeah.
I always get them like mixed up, but
for sure. He's the current like reigning like Korean director that we all know. Yeah.
I mean Parasite.
I mean, Parasite, but do you remember The Host? Did you ever watch The Host?
Yeah.
I still got a copy. I freaking thought that movie was dope.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool stuff. I mean,
yeah,
Mickey 17, have you seen anything about it?
I just seen trailer, like the short trailers on YouTube.
Well, so what it reminds me of is you remember Moon?
Yeah.
Oh man, loved Moon.
Yeah.
And if you know the premise of Moon, they kind of show it to you up front, but like that's what I feel like is like this like recycling, but with more of a comedy than like a super serious sci-fi.
Yeah.
Something along those lines, like Moon meets like, I don't know, like Biodome or something, silly like that. It's terrible. You're like, what? It's terrible.
Pauly Shore makes an appearance out of nowhere.
Yeah, he's like, what's up, buddy? The weasel comes in. Gee. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm trying not to watch a lot of it because I know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And I've actually been really liking Robert Pattinson more.
I mean,
lately,
post the, was it the Safdie brothers, whenever he did Good Time? Did you ever see Good Time?
Yeah.
That right there, I was like, all right, bro, that's the turn you needed to make to get out of like the get off the hooks of Twilight or whatever.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Well, heck, speaking of like kid actors, I actually watched Jungle, which is that Daniel Radcliffe film. And then it came out like last year or something, but it's about like early 80s, this guy like disappeared into the Amazon.
Yeah, I think I've started that movie a couple times,
Right.
but never got past the opening because I I always started too late. It's not that it wasn't interesting.
He's like falling asleep.
Yeah, it's like, oh, like this looks cool, and I like started at like 9 o'clock, and
Well-
like an old man and go to bed by
Well,
30.
Daniel Radcliffe, and I'm not sure if he did it or not, but like he's kind of a petite man, and so he's like small and he's like doing this thing, and man, the difference between Pattinson and Radcliffe is that I don't know, Pattinson was able to hook up some really kick-ass indie, kick-ass directors, and Radcliffe hasn't fully disconnected. So when I was watching Jungle, he's doing his best to literally kill the Harry Potter. But dude, like I still watch. I'm like he's like throwing up and like and trying to get all gross and stuff. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
you're trying, but like you're still like
yeah.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean, I did really, and I still do love Swiss Army Man.
Wait,
Swiss
Army Man was
That-
really
like,
good one.
Such a weird, quirky movie, and Paul Dano is like one of my all-time favorites.
Well, the Daniels too. Like they just nailed that.
Yeah,
movie.
it's just gorgeous, fun concept. But have you ever seen Guns Akimbo?
I actually just got a copy of that movie. I got it from somebody for free. I need to watch that. It looks wild as hell.
Yeah, where he gets. If you guys see the premise of it, basically he's like this deadbeat, and I think the premise is as part of like his repercussion for not paying off his debts, he gets these guns literally bolted to his hands. So the whole movie, he just has guns akimbo.
Yeah.
And like the camera movement is wild, and it's just like this weird, quirky, like I don't even know how to describe it. It feels like an 80s, like 80s. I don't even know what I was trying to
Is it
say.
cyberpunky?
Kinda like just has like this that wackiness of like like 80s Jackie Chan films almost. Like where everybody's like over the top, like the villain's like very over the top and like big thick leather.
Do you remember
green
Shoot 'em Up?
tattoos.
You remember Shoot 'em Up?
Yeah.
Does it kind of have that vibe where there's like too many people getting shot and lots of people, or like Hardcore Henry?
No, it's not as like dark and grimy as that. It has like a very bright, like kind of, I haven't seen it in a while, but I feel like it has like a Borderlands, like the new Borderlands kind of feel, but like actually a good movie.
So I was thinking about like how that Cyberpunk was a 2077 game came out, which kind of created like they started using like modern day like Tokyo instead of like 80s like future. And is that kind of what it's like?
It's kind of like that, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's very futuristic, but it just has that over the top like. Yeah, the 80s villain that has like the big spiky hair and like big chunky Doc Martin.
Did you see that movie Boy Kills World that came out with one of the Skarsgårds, whatever? That's like another one that had that vibe, like Borderlands and stuff. It came out like last year. Honestly, it kind of got buried because of some political stuff that happened. He did like The Crow too last year and stuff, so he was just doing a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen the new.
But like that's what that kind of reminds me of. Boy Kills World. Like it's a video game, but not.
Yeah, it feels very video game.
Yeah.
Good way to put it.
Or like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, but like that's way more comedic.
Yeah,
on
it's more
purpose.
arcade game feel, but not the same thing where it's just like the camera movements and it's a fun movie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, getting into that realm too is talking about Tron that might be coming out too. Like, I'm pretty excited about that because they're doing like every like 15 years. I feel like at this point, but that's a franchise that I absolutely love. It's not super popular with everybody, but I watched the second Tron recently again.
I haven't seen it since probably came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's one of those that I watch once a year, like Blade Runner or something like that. I think it's a good one. That's a fun one, man.
Is it a continuation of the?
I think
the original movie, or is it like its own storyline within the Tronverse?
I'm going to guess that because I've only seen like them shoot like set shots, like Tron 3, and then like where the O is a 3. It's like True 3, like Trent.
Everybody's on trend.
Everybody's a Trent.
This is the future.
This is the future. Yeah, I'm guessing too, because where they were at in that one is they showed that the internet had taken over and there's like an online presence. And this one, I'm guessing AI is going to be the villain in this one. That's what I'm guessing. Instead of it being a copy and being like, Clue, it's probably going to be some kind of over-the-top AI that is actually going to try to take over, though. Like they haven't fully crossed over into our universe yet.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be it. Maybe we're going to be walking amongst them like Ready Player One or something crazy.
Oh, yeah, that was a good movie too.
That was a good one.
I like Ready Player One.
Yeah, I think that one got snubbed too. That was the
book is really fun, and that's why I was excited. I'd read the book.
Oh yeah.
Or audiobooked it.
I mean, it's
Not too fun.
we don't have time to read books. We got to do edits and stuff, guys. But like, I think that was a fun one too to watch, and I've watched that a couple times in the last year. That's just Spielberg just knew what he was doing with just over the top like references and stuff like that. Man. Well, probably about that time here. I mean, that was a simple little convo about the Oscars, indie films, things that we're liking in movies and stuff. If there's anything you want us to talk about, or you heard anything we had to say about something that you'd like to see, or what Oscar films we should see, knowing that we love sci-fis that we might not have seen.
Yeah. Or just non-sci-fis, because I really want to see Brutalists.
Oh, Brutalist.
Seeing that, like, there's a few movies in there. I did see Amelia Perez, was pretty cool.
Did you like it?
I didn't.
People were just not
Yeah.
mad at that movie.
Yeah, like some people, like James Cameron was saying, like he watched it like 3 times in a row because he loved it so much. But like
really?
he just has a crush on Zoe
He does that.
from like Avatar. But like I watched it, I was like, it's fun. It's a weird way to have like not a weird way, but a different way to have like a. It wasn't even too dancey, like songy musical, but I don't know. It was fun. But there's a few in there that I haven't seen that I really want to. But yeah,
Cool.
Let us know what your favorite was.
Yeah, let us know what your favorite was, and we'll fight about it later. All right, I guess that's the end of this episode. Just go right here, I guess.
Yeah.